Hello and welcome to Left, Right and Centre. I'm Vishnu Shom. I'm coming to you today from the Lviv railway station here in the western part of Ukraine. Today's been a day when there's been a huge influx, as you can see, of internally displaced people. These are people coming from various parts of the country. Most of these trains have actually come in from Kharkiv. That's to the east of Ukraine, an area which has been particularly badly hit. The stories over here are extremely distressing. They are of little children who've seen their houses being damaged. They've seen buildings being destroyed. Others who've seen missile attacks, and they don't know what to do now. We've spoken to a few people here on the ground. Many of these people who are coming in here don't want to talk. They are shocked at what they've been seeing over the last several days. The story today out of Lviv is a story of real tragedy. It comes on a day when the Russians have actually said that there are humanitarian corridors which are opened up in some areas, but I can tell you even before that announcement, many of these train services have actually started. So what we're going to be doing is actually talking to a lot of people who've actually come in. As you can see over there, there are soup kitchens which have been set up, and there are buses in the distance as well. So basically a lot of people who are actually coming over here will be getting to those soup kitchens, eating a little bit. Remember, in many cases 18-20 hours plus before they could actually get on to or reach over here. 18-20 hours on trains, and then they're going to get on buses. Many of them are going to try and get to Poland, but remember, men of a certain age are told that they cannot evacuate with their families. They need to be over here. It's only the old, the infirm, women and children primarily who are allowed to cross over. But as you can see, many more people continue to cross and come down here at Lviv railway station. The numbers are just huge. Upwards of 10,000 plus people at the very least in just the last couple of hours. Well, this gentleman with me has come in from Kharkiv on a train. A few days back, he was with Indian students, in fact, who were in that city. How difficult was your journey?
It was hard to board on the train, actually.
Too many people?
Too many people. Ukrzaliznytsia added some trains, but it's still hard, especially for male, because the evacuation is mainly for women and children now.
And you actually were with a lot of Indian students, you were saying a few days back.
I saw a lot of students, they were trying to get to Kiev,
Right.
because there was a plane to India from there.
It was actually elsewhere, but describe for us the journey. I mean, what did you see on the train? I mean, how difficult was it?
The train was full of people, and not only the seats, but also in the passage on the floor.
They were standing and sitting and...
Sitting on the bags and so on.
Yeah. And where are you going to go now?
I'm trying to get to Ivano-Frankivsk for the shelter, and I need to continue my job, because the territorial defense in Kharkiv is full and don't accept more.
So you're going to protect your country?
Yes, if it will be needed.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Well, there you have it. Now, it's important to remember that in many cases, Ukrainian men are not told to actually leave the border. There are exceptions, of course, to the rule. But what they do say is that they need to be here in their country to defend Ukraine's territory. That's a message we're often getting. But in the cases of children, in the cases of women, those who are elderly, they are being allowed to go. So a lot of the people over here would initially move to shelters and then look perhaps to go back home ultimately. Those who cannot will try and work elsewhere. And those who can will move to Poland, to Hungary, or to one of the other countries in the vicinity. Well, we've got lots of children coming over here. These two boys have come from Kharkiv. Why don't you ask them a few questions? Stefania, what's his name?
Як тебе звати?
Денис.
Denis. And how old is Denis?
Скільки тобі років?
Мне 7.
7.
7 years old. Okay.
6.
6, sir. Okay, 6 years old. And what is your name?
My name is Misha, years old, and
How old are you?
my name is Misha,
Yeah.
old 11.
11.
11.
Okay. And you're coming from Kharkiv, right? From Kharkiv?
Right, right.
What did you see?
Що ти бачиш?
Ему уже
I
12.
I see
No, speak in Ukrainian.
Я видел взрывы, много чего страшного. Видел взрыв в мой дом, попал, я очень сильно испугался, поэтому мы приехали сюда.
He has seen very, very scary things. He's seen and heard many explosions, and the sad thing is that in his house, like a missile hit, and yeah, he was really scared, and so they run for their lives here.
Yeah. What did he see?
Мы сейчас с Мишей едем в Польшу.
He's saying they are driving to Poland right now.
Thousands of people continue to pour into these parts of Ukraine. This food kitchen over here has been serving thousands of people. Thousands of liters of soup have actually been prepared. But the situation today reflects the desperation that continues in so many parts of eastern and southern Ukraine. People are able to get out finally on trains. They are being put on buses. You can see the buses over there. And you can move, see, take a look, Vladimir, at the buses over there. And they're going to be going onto these buses. And then many of them are going to be headed to the Poland border as well. But right now, after traveling, and we spoke to somebody who's actually traveled close to 20 hours on a train, it's still going to be a long distance to the border before they finally get across, and hopefully they'll be looked after in Poland. This is the situation in Lviv today. Well, I'm at the Lviv train station. As you can see, there are thousands of people who've actually been coming over here. Stefania is here to actually help me translate a little bit. Can you just ask her where she's come from? And
Розкажіть, звідки ви,
Я із Харкова.
from Kharkiv?
Харків, да.
And how difficult was it?
як було, наскільки це було складно, яка ситуація, розкажіть.
Дуже складна ситуація, дуже страшно. В дочці, де живе донька моя, попав снаряд в будинок. Це був такий шок. Ми були в такому стресному стані, що ми просто єлі це видержали.
Okay, she said that she is from Kharkiv and the situation is just beyond terrible. Actually, in the house of her daughter, like ammunition and a rocket, a missile hit there, and they were so scared and they didn't know like what to do, and they came here. А коли ви приїхали сюди?
Сьогодні.
Ви тільки сьогодні. А як довго вам треба було їхати? Як ви сюди добралися?
На поїзді, на Харків-Львів.
Харків-Львів.
Да. Умови були гарні, поїзд був в Сіті. То есть комфортабельно, людей было очень много, и сидячие, и стоячие были места. Ехали мы долго.
Скільки ви їхали?
Мы ехали 18 часов.
Okay, she said she just arrived today and they were coming from Kharkiv. Now the trains are coming here, and it took them approximately 18 hours to get here, and yeah, they're really happy that they're here right now.
Thank you, thank you. Come, why don't I ask you a question as well? How many people have you seen today?
Oh, maybe 5 or 6,000
Yeah.
only morning.
Yeah. And you've been giving them food?
Мы работаем, сейчас у нас идет уже, по сути, вторая сутка, как мы всю ночь люди подходят, мы уже приготовили около 700 литров супа только за эту ночь, и за это утро уже около 450 литров супа мы раздали.
Okay, so they're basically working all day, all night now for like 2 days in a row. They have basically made 600 liters of soup, to like warm soup to give them, and like just for today like approximately 400 liters of soup, and people are coming like in the nighttime and daytime, and yeah, it's just a non-stop process.
Well, this is the situation today in Lviv railway station. This comes at a time when Russia has declared a very limited ceasefire for humanitarian corridors or green corridors to actually open up, to allow people to actually get to places in western Ukraine. So there are trains which are moving, and these people had perhaps been moving from areas other than those areas where the ceasefire started, but we expect many more people to actually start coming. So this is the main train station at Lviv, and as you can see, a huge influx of people from across Ukraine making their way to this particular area. I think it's important to assert that nobody is in any doubt over here that what we are essentially seeing is a very temporary move by the Russians to stop fighting in a couple of areas. The war will continue. So the ceasefire is a limited ceasefire, and it affects primarily the area of Mariupol. That's a port in the south of Ukraine. But the big story coming out of Ukraine today is this, that there are a large number of people trying to get away because train services are operational to get people out to relative safety. A little bit earlier on today, joining me now, Natalia Lutsenko. She's the head of the international desk of ICTV. She joins me live from Kiev. Natalia, thanks very much for being with us. Is there any sign of the Russians stepping up their attacks on Kiev itself?
Hello, Vishnu. Well, there is some signs. At least it's really calm today in Kiev. So we don't hear such a lot of bombs and missiles like we hear yesterday. So we have we are a bit optimistic in that they are just getting out.
And what is the condition of people now in Kiev itself? I mean, what about essential supplies?
Well, for now it's good. We had some troubles with the food, with the delivery of food to our shops, but we're managing that. The volunteers managing that. We have maybe not on shelves are full of food and milk and bread, but we're managing that. People are giving that for free to a lot of people. Volunteers are helping, restaurants are helping. So with that, we're good. And everything like energy supplies are also fine. We have light here. We have a heating system.
Okay, well, that's good to know that is the situation so far. But as you know, there's a very large Russian military formation which lies just north of Kiev. Satellite photos have been showing that for several days. Is there a real fear that it's just a matter of time before Kiev faces a massive ground assault from the Russians?
Well, I'm trying not to think about that, but of course, I mean, Ukrainian forces are doing the best, and we are really proud of them here because where they are just really trying to clear the ground. We're good with the fighting on the ground with all the tanks. We're just hitting every minute. We are just hitting some missiles attack. We're capturing that. We're neutralizing them. So for now, Kyiv is a safe place, and I hope it's going to be for the rest of the time.
Natalia, are you or people you're speaking to at all optimistic about the peace process? There have been a couple of rounds of talks. There was an agreement on humanitarian corridors being set up. That didn't entirely work out because there was continued shelling in some of the areas which were supposed to see the ceasefire. So talks are continuing, but are you optimistic that they're headed in the right direction, if at all?
You know, Vishnu, it's really hard to be optimistic with the Russians and with their troops. But I know that their corridor that we built, they just started to shoot. So we just postponed that situation for now. But I think soon we will try to manage to evacuate people from Mariupol and Volnovakha.
Natalia, look after yourself, and thank you so much for joining us this evening on NDTV. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you, Vishnu. Goodbye.
Well, joining us now, Dr. Prithviraj Ghosh. He's somebody who's chosen to stay on in Kiev at this stage, and Professor Scott Lucas, University of Birmingham. Thank you both very much for being with us. Dr. Ghosh, why have you decided to stay on in Kiev when, people have evacuated, Indian nationals have evacuated?
Actually, I run one NGO here that is called Charitable Organization and Charitable Fund, Study in Ukraine by Dr. Ghosh. So I do the students' work here. So I have lots of students, not only from India. I have several students from Africa also, from Arab countries also, and Turkey also. So when the war started, from 16th of February, the US intelligence already told that there will be a war in Ukraine.
Right.
But the war started 24th of February when the Russian Federation launched the full-scale attack in the Ukraine. Initially, the Russian army faced strong opposition from the Ukrainian army.
Yes.
So I decided that I will stay here. First, I will try to evacuate all my students, which was more than 350 students in Ukraine from every country. So I finished my work and it
Yes.
became like 28th of February when I
Right.
finished my work. Then there was very less option to go outside the Kiev, since after the front battle, which Russia was losing in the initially.
Right.
Then Russia, they started in a different way.
Right.
Their
So, Dr. Ghosh,
tactical-
essentially what you're saying at this juncture, it's not possible for you to get out of Kiev. That's what you're essentially saying.
No, actually, I decided to stay in Kiev in another reason also, because I have here apartment and everything, so I don't want to go. And afterwards also there was lots of other students coordinators. There are right now.
All right. So, coordinating I take your point, coordinating the activities, it's a very brave decision that you've taken to help ensure that, you're there for your students, not just from India, but from around the world. Professor Scott Lucas joins us as well. Professor Lucas, where do you see this conflict going? Do you believe it's going to be extremely protracted at this stage? Kiev stands, Lviv, where I am, has thus far, and hopefully it isn't touched, it has not been touched thus far. There is fighting still very extensive in Kharkiv and other areas as well. The Ukrainian resistance is strong. This being the case, do you see this being a protracted conflict?
Yes. I mean, the immediate steps in the conflict are up to Vladimir Putin. The Russians effectively lied about the humanitarian corridors in the south. Only a few hundred people got out today before the shelling started. So as I've seen in Syria for years, the Russian tactics have been to say, okay, we will have humanitarian corridors and then simply shell people and continue the attacks. The problem for Putin is, well, it's twofold. First is that his attempt to topple the government of Ukraine by detaining or assassinating leaders collapsed within 48 hours last week because Russian ground troops could not get into Kiev and other big cities. And they still can't get in there because the second problem for Putin is that the Russian army is running into a lot more problems than we expected. It has problems of supply, problems of logistics, a lack of fuel. It's relying on conscripts in a lot of areas. So
Right.
if Putin cannot rely on ground troops, his option, and this is what we're fearing, his option is to go with the aerial attacks. Because
Right.
as bad as the attacks have been so far, they could be far worse if he unleashes his most advanced warplanes and his most advanced missiles. So we have to keep fingers crossed that somehow he will back off from that, even as he appears to be getting a bit desperate given Russia's economic situation.
Dr. Ghosh, what have you done or what are you doing to ensure that you remain safe, those close to you remain safe in Kiev? That must be an extraordinarily difficult sort of task at this stage. I understand that you're looking after students, but what about your own safety? How are you dealing with that?
I just maintaining the rules and regulation provided by the Ukrainian government here. You stay at home, stay safe. If anything happens, go to the bunkers. But I am not going to the bunkers. And
Dr.
don't
Ghosh,
go
how many
outside.
students do you actually have presently under your watch who still remain in Kiev?
Actually, right now, I don't have any more students, but now the other student coordinators, they are calling me. Today, they informed me in the Chernihiv region, there is around 11 students, 3 Indians and 8 Chinese students, and they want to evacuate, but I'm trying how to get the solution because that area is totally very difficult. In the morning also called me from Nigeria. There is around more than 200 students, Nigerians. So
Right.
they're also willing to go. And some Indians also.
How do
they're coming
how do you expect those students to actually get out from whichever country they may be in this junction?
Once more, please.
How exactly do you expect those students you're talking about to get out in this situation presently?
Actually, since I am here for a long time, so I have lots of connections with the local people also. I'm trying to arrange some bus before I was doing like that so that they can
Right.
take them to the railway station, and from railway station again I was trying to make some another transportation to the borders area like Romania or Lviv or Hungary or Slovakia.
Right.
In this way I was doing since I was here also in the 2014 during the war between Donetsk and Lugansk.
Right.
At that time I was also evacuating the students from Donetsk and
Sure.
Lugansk, and it was more than 500 students at that moment.
Right.
So I have some experience now. So I was doing the work.
Professor Lucas, we're looking at a lot of rather bizarre things. It's the worst of the Cold War, perhaps even worse than that. CNN, BBC, international media have chosen not to report from Moscow itself. Facebook, Twitter, they've all been banned, they've been restricted, if not banned, by Russia so far. So there is, a complete clampdown on information on both sides. How is that something, which sort of can potentially be difficult or dangerous, because disinformation in a situation like this, which is already so tense, is deeply problematic?
Well, first of all, the clampdown on information is from one side. There have been Russian state platforms removed by the European Union, but that's because of disinformation, especially through RT and through Sputnik. In terms of what's happening in Russia, you are absolutely right that Vladimir Putin, who's facing these economic problems, who knows the war isn't going well, he has threatened not just foreign media, but Russian media up to 15 years in prison if you actually mention the word war or you mention the word sanctions. That's how serious it is. Leading Russian outlets, TV Rain, Echo Moskvy, Medusa have all been shut down in the last few days. How do we get information? It's the power of social media. Find reliable people who are still inside Russia. Make sure you know they're reliable, and you can still, the power of the internet is still great in the 21st century, and not even Vladimir Putin can cut that off. And he certainly can't cut that off from Ukraine, where I salute people like Dr. Ghosh and others who continue to try to do the best for people in difficult circumstances.
Yeah. Professor Lucas, there are other bizarre things which are also happening in terms of the sanctions. The sanctions may have been at the level of countries, the European Union, but there are companies which are boycotting Russia as well. Samsung has decided not to sell any of their products in Russia. So many other companies have boycotted Russia completely. FIFA has thrown out the Russian football team and other professional teams. How much of an impact will all of this potentially have in addition to the sanctions themselves?
Huge. First of all, it's not just the U.S. and Europe. There's a lot of U.S. and European sanctions, but it's international. Japan has imposed sanctions on Russia. Australia, Canada have done so as well. So Samsung, as a Japanese, as an Asian company, is pulling out. There are very few countries who are really lined up to prop up the Russian economy. Even the Chinese are being very cautious right now. So the impact, the Russian economy is projected in the next 3 months to contract by 35%. The stock market has been closed for a week. The ruble has dropped by 40% to a historic low. It will not stop the military operations immediately. But the longer this goes on, the longer it erodes Vladimir Putin, his options to try to press the occupation of Ukraine. Because at the end of the day, even if he occupies Ukraine, how does he pay to rebuild it if he has a broken economy?
Right. Well, we'll leave it over there. I'd like to thank you both very much for joining us with Left, Right and Center on NDTV. Professor Ghosh, do stay safe yourself. It's incredible that you choose to stay on in that situation, try to look after students, get them out if possible. Thank you very much, sir, for being with us. We're out of time on this program from all of us here. Goodbye.